Hey everybody, I'm Shelly Palmer and welcome to what is redubbed Web3 Wednesday. This used to be Crypto Wednesday and we're still going to talk a lot about crypto, but I think crypto is too limiting, so we are renaming ourselves Web3 Wednesday. Welcome everybody. We're on YouTube Live and that's where we are exclusively today, so I'm glad you're here. I see the chat's getting active already. Chat is where it's at, so please, it's an Ask Me Anything kind of Wednesday. You can put your information in chat, ask a question in chat. Please, of course, just say hi, tell us where you are. Tori, glad to see you here, and Alan and David. And of course, Joey is here taking notes and making sure that all of your questions end up on screen. So welcome. It is an unbelievable week. Just now I checked, and I don't like to do crypto prices ever, and we tend to do them all the time. Bitcoin's at 68,676 right now. ETH is at 48.43. Just to report the news, DOT is at 51.54. Matic is at $1.89. 8 is at 227. And of course, the meme coin Doge is still languishing at 27 cents, which is probably where it belongs. And that's probably being nice to it. Hello, Stephen Gatola, and hey, Mickey, how are you? So I'm glad you're all here. Tell us where you are. And I see Steve's in Toronto, and Mickey's in Southern California. Welcome, Patty Rubio from Phoenix. Glad you're here. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. So we've got a lot to cover today. Last week, we had NFT NYC. That was my first outing to a giant gathering of people, and it was a giant gathering of people. I haven't been around that many people I don't know in the better part of 18, 19 months. It was wonderful. Probably my favorite event of all of NFT NYC was Quentin Tarantino's drop of the Tarantino NFTs. Secret Network put on a really wonderful event at Neue House. It was really fascinating. It was fun to hear Quentin talk about what his perception of an NFT is, and it was interesting, I think, to hear other people talk about what they believed an NFT is and what it means to them. So that was a pretty strange experience for me, because for the first time I got to hear people who are schooled in the art and not schooled in the art talking on the same stage. And what I mean by not schooled in the art is there are people clearly who are thinking about NFTs as a get-rich-quick scheme or some kind of game, or they're playing with money that they can afford to lose. There's a fair number of people that I met, there were a fair number of people that I met who were playing with money they can't afford to lose. And then there were people who really understood what they were doing, and that group is so head and shoulders better prepared to deal with this than those who aren't. They always say do your own research. I think that's a refrain that's become a little too cliche. This is the one place I would tell you to do your own research. It's great to listen to a show like this. I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. This show is for your entertainment, and it's just featuring my opinions. But if you're going to get into this, go in with your eyes open, because this is really something. I have never seen a larger group of people more committed to a belief system that is yet to be defined. And what I mean by that is we know what an NFT is for sure, and we know how they're being used across a wide spectrum. But it's unclear what the highest best purpose of an NFT is, or where the best use cases are going to land. Right now, what we have is a wide smattering of game tokens and collectibles and new digital assets and artwork and smart contracts that are honed in to capturing value for secondary market sale. There's a lot of different things they're being used for, and everyone's approaching it a slightly different way. I was thrilled to see everybody bringing their own experiences to this, and I was thrilled to see everybody bringing their own expertise to it. That said, it's one of the widest ranging groups of disciplines I've ever seen. You've got technologists, artists, charlatans, hucksters, salespeople, finance people. It's like life. It really was like life. What a wonderful experience to go. What a great group of people to be involved with. The community generally is fantastic. So I was happy to be there. Welcome David Libby from San Francisco. Welcome Thor. Glad that you're here from Rhode Island. And Seth, nice to see you from the Granite State of New Hampshire. Welcome to everyone, and thank you for being here. Please ask your questions. You could also in chat tell everybody what you do. so that, Jeff, welcome from Los Olivos, California. Yeah, just tell us what you do. Tell everybody what you do, and you guys can, of course, chat amongst yourselves. Any questions you have, please ask me. I see we have our first question already. This one came in through Twitter. I like that. This is cool. It says, let me see if I can read this. Are you going to buy any New York coin when it launches next week? Okay. Not my thing. I am not a speculator in crypto. That's not what I do. And I do have crypto holdings. I know a lot of you know that I have crypto holdings. And I've been mining crypto for a long time, mining ETH forever. Stopped mining Bitcoin years and years ago. I've got a bunch of Bitcoin staked in some of the proof of stake schemas that I like from various foundations that have good tokenomics. I don't tend to share the volume and breadth of my holdings because they're my own decisions based on the information that I have and what I think is right. I'm certainly not suggesting anyone make a purchase or invest in crypto in any way. So am I going to buy New York coins when they come out? New York coin when it comes out next week? Highly, highly, highly doubtful. It's a personal choice. It's just not, I'll tell you what would be the criteria for me to do that. First, I'd need to understand the founding principles behind the coin, whether it's a stable coin or whether it's and I'm not talking about New York coin now, I'm talking about any coin, any tokens of any kind. First, you want to understand the foundational principles. So what's the reason for it? Why does it exist? What does the community look like that's gathered around it or likely to gather around it? The second thing you look at, probably the most important, are the tokenomics around the coin. Are a bunch of coins been issued to a small group of people who will stand to benefit mightily if this thing takes off? And if so, that may be okay if they can help make the coin more valuable. And yes, David Cutler's Shelly coin has been talked about a lot. No, it doesn't exist. It's unlikely to. The next thing I look at is what I still call, is it a nightclub or is it a utility? Is this something that is something of the moment, or is this going to be something that's going to be here for a long time and become utilitarian and important to have? We could argue that certain social networks met that test, right? So if Facebook is clearly no longer a nightclub. It might have been for the first few years. It's a utility. That's just what it is. And so that's the way you have to think about it. Is it something that people are going to need to use all the time? One of the best ways that I have ever been told to think about any of this was from a cultural anthropologist named Genevieve Bell. Brilliant woman who gave an incredible speech, it had to be 25 years ago now. And she showed a picture of a tenement in a slum somewhere. I think it was in India somewhere in the outskirts of a major city, because she was talking to an international group of investors and brand representatives. And this tenement was interesting because it had a light socket in the hallway, and the people in the tenement were stealing electricity from the common light socket in the hallway of their apartment. I wouldn't call it a complex. I'd call it an apartment building. And inside the apartment were these multi-strip outlets that were completely full. And like everything in it. And if you can just put this picture in your mind, you're in a fairly dilapidated apartment that's overcrowded. There are too many people living there. And everything you can plug in is plugged in every kind of crazy Rube Goldberg way, into multi-outlets and strips that are all plugged into one another. And she asked a question that I really, really liked. She said, you have a brand new product you're introducing to this market. Which product are they going to unplug to plug yours in? And I was like, yep, that's exactly right. That is exactly right. Which product would you unplug to plug yours in? If you can't get to the front of that, I need to plug you in above my iPhone, above my heater, above the hot plate that is my stove. Like if I can't get that done, if you're not important enough for that to happen, then I guess you're just not that important. And that's my nightclub versus utility on a foundational principles of a coin. What's behind a coin? Is it going to actually be that big, that big of a deal? So those are and there are many more criteria, but tokenomics and utility versus nightclub are the big ones. And also, this is me personally, again, not financial advice, I tend to hold or hodl my coins. I don't tend to trade them. I know on this show we have talked about my bots. I do have a bunch of bots that are trading for me. That is an experiment. It's not a way of life. And I'm doing it basically to test my math and to also hone my bot skills, because I do believe that a lot of the things we are going to do in the future are going to be bot-based, benevolent versus malevolent bots, but bot-based no matter what. So that's where my bot trading goes. But that, again, not financial advice, in my world, that's a bunch of money that I have already earmarked to go out into to dissolve and disintegrate into space. I'm completely prepared to lose it. A few weeks ago, when we had the little semi-winter, when Bitcoin was at 29,000 and Ethereum was at 1,800, those bots were struggling because the market had gone down, and dollar cost average bot and the regress to the mean bot and a couple of my other bots they just couldn't handle it. And I also didn't have them funded enough. They just had to shut down. They had to stop. As this thing crawled the way back up, they look a lot smarter than they looked a couple weeks ago. So that's the only active trading I do. I don't trade otherwise. And I'm not telling you whether you should or should not. I have a lot of friends who trade every single day like they're day traders in crypto. Not my thing. Today, we're here to talk about things I really care about. And there are a couple things that I got super excited about in the last couple weeks. People have been talking about NFTs incessantly, and we've been doing a lot of work in NFTs for fan development, NFTs for audience development, NFTs for ticketing, NFTs as a new collectible class for digital souvenirs and digital assets of all kinds. I'm very, very high on NFTs, and I'm especially high on cross-chain NFTs. The thing that I am really stoked about, though, is decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs. This is a structure that came to be, I guess, 15, 16, somewhere in that zone, and maybe a little earlier. And the DAO, the original one, had a big issue, and it was quite unfortunate. It got hacked hard. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, and I might have my history a little wrong, I could look this up, and you can too. I'm going to say this, a 50% chance that I don't have exactly my facts straight. But as I remember, there was about a $60 million hack of the DAO, and it was the only time I'm aware of that the Ethereum miners got together, and they actually rolled back the blockchain. They did a planned or an agreed upon 51% attack, if I'm remembering my history correctly. And they literally recovered 40 of the $60 million of ETH and gave it back to the rightful owners. And in fact, I should say in fact, in my memory, that's how Ethereum Classic and ETH come to be. If I'm remembering my history right, ETC is the original unforked chain, and ETH is the forked Ethereum blockchain from when that DAO hack happened. The DAO hack happened. So that put a kind of a weird taint on it really, really skewed people's vision towards what a DAO could or couldn't be. People got really a little flipped out by that. But there are plenty of them out there now, and most will fail, to be fair. But some are succeeding mightily and are likely to succeed. And today what I'd like to talk about is the DAO of the DAO, or the DAO of a DAO. I wrote an article. It's at shellypalmer.com. You can easily find the article at shellypalmer.com. It's in my, just click the blog. And it was Sunday's article. It's called The DAO of a DAO, TAO of a DAO. I think the best way to describe a DAO, I'm not sure who to credit this. It could be Cooper Turley, who is a really big proponent of all things Dow. It just could be some anonymous human. But I think the best way to describe this is a group chat with a shared bank account. I like it for its simplicity, and it's absolutely true. That is what a Dow is. It starts and it actually begins and ends with a community. I can't stress the importance of this because it's not the way we normally think about things. We have come to learn that a hierarchical structure is the right structure. There's a leader and there are followers. There's a leader and lieutenants. And if you've ever studied any military tactics or strategy, if you've ever looked at the way the military is structured when they go to battle, you've got nobody really managing more than roughly 5 to 10 people, depending on where you are in the structure. And you could see it in corporate life. You'll have a CEO, a chief of staff, a leadership team. Each leader in a given category lead or a given unit leader, P&L manager will have their chief of staff and their lieutenants and or their senior leaders, and it trickles down. And, some people manage organizations that are 20,000 people, but they're not directly managing all 20,000. There's a hierarchical management structure. And the better organized those are, the more successful they are. And we can see that everywhere. The most successful organizations on the whole planet, unsurprisingly, are the best organized. Do a good job organizing people. And I think it's Yuval Harari who wrote *Sapiens* and I think it was *Arguments for the 21st Century*. I forget the full title of the book, but in his writings, he talks about what separates human beings from every other species on Earth. And specifically, it's our ability to organize around a belief system at scale. You could and his example is usually you could put 100,000 chimpanzees on Wall Street or in Wembley Stadium, and that you couldn't convince them to root for the team, or you couldn't convince them to organize a financial system. But you can put 100,000 human beings on Wall Street, and they will organize a financial system. You can put 100,000 people in Wembley Stadium, they will root for a specific team. Homo Deus. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was *Sapiens* was the first book, and then *Homo Deus* was they're great books. I mean, he's a very good storyteller. Is he 100% right? I don't know. Some of the stuff he writes in *Homo Deus* was 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. Thank you. That's exactly the title of the book. Some of the stuff he writes in that book, kind of obvious. Some of it's nonsense. Some of it's brilliant. I mean, I think he's a great writer, just a great storyteller. But I really like the way he separates human beings, mostly the organizational skills. And, he talks about swarms, and he talks about, ants and bees and insects and birds that flock together, all of which look organized. And they are organized, but they're not organized around a belief system. They're organized around some algorithm that is really doesn't require them to believe or understand anything. But human beings are separate from that. So if you look at the best, most successful organizations are the best, most successfully organized. Circular argument, perhaps. DAOs are bottom-up organizations around either a community of practice, a community of passion, or a community of interest. Any kind of community. So you have DAOs where in the chat room, all they're talking about is making investments, and everybody's got their own 2 cents about what a great investment is. And some people in a meritocracy of ideas are better educated and able to offer more scholarly or learned or experiential advice, wizened if you're old enough. Some people bring youthful exuberance and or a different point of view. The more diverse the community is, the more likely they are to succeed because they have a lot of different points of view. But one way or the other, it's from the ground up. It is a bottom-up organization. And then you put the tools in place to give that grassroots group a bank account. And now they can all share in the value that the group creates. That's basically what a DAO is, a decentralized autonomous organization. There are lots of variations. You've got decentralized autonomous corporations. You've got decentralized applications, which are separate. And there are all kinds of variations on a theme. I haven't seen a single right way to govern or organize a DAO. I've seen a lot of different ways to do it. The tokenomics of a DAO may be based on contribution, could be on sweat equity because people need to do stuff. There are some DAOs that actually employ executive directors and people, so they need money. Some DAOs, for example, are investment vehicles. So it's like a lot of people get together and decide we're going to pool our money and invest. Some invest, like Pleaser DAO, they invest in NFT art, which is awesome. And I've got friends who put together some DAO recently. I'm not going to shill for them, but what they did was it's basically an investment club. I mean, they pooled a bunch of money and they're investing. I have another friend who is working on a DAO right now, and the goal of that DAO is to get a large corporation to fund a fund, and they're going to help creators fund their projects. And I guess everybody will take a piece based on the smart contracts, because ultimately and fundamentally what makes a DAO autonomous, the A and decentralized autonomous organizations, is the fact that a DAO is built around one or a series, generally a series, of smart contracts. So that you don't need to trust anyone, right? Like a DAO can be trustless. So we can go over this really quickly. This is not, again, it's in the article, so we don't have to talk about it in too much academic detail. I'm not going to put a PowerPoint up or anything, but DAO is going to have a shared goal. Like we're collecting railroad trains, model trains. We're doing something. It's got to have a shared goal. You're going to have some level of democratic governance in any DAO, and that may take the form of electors and an electorate. It may take the form of a senate. It could take any form. There's no set way to do it. Is any way you can imagine that functions for your organization, whatever's culturally acceptable, sure, go for it. In every case, a DAO has to be structured so it's trustless. You can't need to know the people in the DAO or have something in common with them. You cannot need to know the customers or have something in common with them. This needs to function and be built to function in a trustless, decentralized world. That's the nature of this. It's the nature of Web3. It's a component part that is immutable in this case. If it's not that, you may have an organization, but it's a different kind of organization, and it is really vulnerable to all kinds of things if there are trust factors involved, because that allows people to gain more power than they should, and it would become impossibly tough. Again, a shared bank account is absolute. You must have a shared bank account or you don't really do much. Now it could be a shared treasury, right? I'm using bank account as a catch-all phrase. By the way, please ask your questions and please chat amongst yourselves, and please throw your questions into chat. I would love to get your questions here. I can see that the chat, I'm got you so wrapped you're listening and not like chatting with me. Chat, we love. So please, in chat, tell me who you are, tell me where you are, tell each other what you're doing. If you want to push back on anything I'm saying, please do it in chat. And if you've got any other questions, please put them in there. We'll throw them up on the screen. That happy to do it. So when I say shared bank account, what I'm really talking about is a shared treasury. And that treasury might be filled with NFTs. That treasury might be filled with cryptocurrency, of the DAO's own cryptocurrency and or someone else's, or it may have cash or USDT. One way or the other, it needs to be crypto. So it's going to either be a stable coin or a cryptocurrency that's some other coin. It could be a store value coin, could be a meme coin, could be anything, whatever it is. But without a treasury, then there's not a lot to center the DAO. How you get into a DAO can be interesting. You can either buy in. A lot of DAOs have you put up some stake of some kind. Sometimes you buy their tokens. Sometimes you have to just put in some USDT or USDC or some other stable coin. Sometimes you can buy in with ETH or Bitcoin. But generally, sometimes you can just join and then you can do work to make yourself valuable to the organization, and then you can be remunerated in sweat equity. So there's a lot of different governance methodologies. I haven't seen one set way. There's I think Friends with Benefits has like a certain amount of ETH you have to put up it's roughly $10,000 worth of ETH to get you into Friends with Benefits. That's Cooper Turley's DAO, and supposedly it's an amazing place, and they only let certain people in. And for the 10 grand, I hope they only let certain people in. That would, be awesome if that were true. And then there has to be some rules for the autonomy, meaning that you have to hard code the rules into the smart contracts, because without that, the DAO can't work autonomously. So there is an engineering component to every DAO that is significant and non-trivial, and there are places you can go and things you can do. There are really you don't need to write this stuff from scratch in any way. The let's see, what's my favorite one? These guys. I like these guys here. So this group. Oops, I don't like these guys this much, do I? Let's try this group here. Sorry about that. This group is called Aragon, Aragon. It's aragon.org if you're thinking about it. You have to have, I think, 0.2 ETH available in your wallet, and you have to put your wallet up so that they can know that you're real. But once you go in there, you can build. They have ways to build your community. They have a full set of developer tools that are open source. It's a really interesting site. You want to learn a lot about DAOs and how you build them and what you'd ultimately do there. Aragon is a nice place to start. It's sort of training wheels for your DAO. It may be more than that, to be fair. I don't want to sell it short. I've used Aragon for several DAO startups that we've done. Very, very happy with the results. I'm recommending them because I like what they have. I like their software. It's particularly easy to use, and it will yield excellent results very, very quickly. So, but more importantly, you can go there, and there's great reading at Aragon about what a DAO is, how to set it up, how to think about it. That's all good. A couple more things about DAOs. Decisions by everyone, right? It's a democracy, and you can set up different ways that the organization can move forward. Sometimes democracy is incredibly inefficient, and so when you've got things like, I've got to we need to adapt some code, or we need to write an integration, that may not need to be voted on by every single member of the DAO. And maybe it isn't even correct to do that, because if it's really an engineering function, maybe you just want the people who really understand the engineering to vote. If it's a philosophical question or a strategic question, maybe it is very important for everyone to vote. And so putting together the voting governance is critically important. And I guess lastly, the attribute of DAO that's probably the least absolute is immortality. When you form a corporation in the United States, in any state, you have any corporate form, it is granted the rights and privileges of a life form. Its blood is cash. Its life is the incorporation date. It has an Articles of Incorporation, so it basically has its own constitution. It lives. It has the right to be taxed. It has the right to sell stuff. You give corporations an awful lot of rights that we used to previously we reserved for people. And corporations don't die; they dissolve. You can dissolve a corporation; they can go out of business. But if they don't, if they pay their taxes and if they meet the criteria of the business licenses from the various states that have authorized them to exist, they exist for all time. Same with a DAO, except there's no one to go see. You start your DAO today. Say, I got a DAO. It's ours. It's up. And theoretically, as long as your governance is in place and people are still active, as long as people are active in your DAO, the DAO survives. So that's kind of interesting. Are they truly immortal? No, because like everything, as soon as people lose interest in them and stop using them, they will ultimately disintegrate, because no one's using them. They can't propagate. But they can propagate if they are being used, and they will. So there are a million things that you can do with a DAO. You can put together collectives, developers, some kind of gig worker or worker collectives. You can. We knew the Pleaser is an art collective. Any kind of community that you have, hockey, it doesn't matter what it is, baseball, football, little league, whatever it is. We talked a little bit about venture capital, asset management, for sure. Those are great uses of a DAO. Trust funds, insurance, fundraising of every kind, politics, media and entertainment. In fact, one of my favorite DAOs is one that I am just getting involved in right now. I'm not hawking these guys past a point, but this is Moda Dow. And Moda Dow is a really interesting, let me read to you how they describe themselves, because I think it's worth it. This is modadao.io. And here's how they describe themselves. Moda Dow is a decentralized technology network and community. Okay, that sounds like a DAO to me. It's designed for the metaverse and the play-to-earn era. Okay. Moda is dedicated to the adoption of Web3 in the music industry via NFTs, micro-licensing, DAO governance, and DeFi. Sounds like heaven. That is an awful lot of jargon. That's about as jargon heavy as anything I've ever heard in my life. Dedicated to the adoption of Web3, the music industry via NFTs, micro-licensing, DAO governance, and DeFi. Well, that pretty much covers all of it. Or, said differently, is it a Spotify killer? That's, if you said differently, is it a Spotify killer? Could be. How? Well, there's a lot of ways. First of all business models that we are used to right now, come in two flavors. I usually say three, but two. I pay or you pay. Now I used to say three models. I pay, you pay, or someone else pays, and then someone else pays would be the sponsor or advertiser. But really, if it's not me paying, it's somebody else. So it's I pay or somebody else pays. Those are the two business models in the world. If I put on a television show, I can either put it on and pay for it myself, and I can buy the time. I can sell it to somebody and they can go sell advertising, or they can simply just sell subscriptions. There's a lot of different ways that those two models work, but either I'm paying for this or someone's paying me for it. That's it. Two models. In a DAO, this is turned on its head. So let's think about Spotify's business model for 1 second. Spotify is amazing. It's literally my favorite service on the earth. Why? It's got millions and millions of songs that I completely love. I pay them a little bit of money, and access is as good as ownership for me. I don't need to own a song. I don't need any of that. All I want in my life is to be able to hit search and go, I want to hear Karen Carpenter and Richard Carpenter do Masquerade because I want to transcribe Richard Carpenter's insane little piano solo in the middle of that. And I feel like writing that down and woodshedding some of that. I remember it from my childhood. I was just thinking about it the other day. Richard Carpenter does this crazy stuff in there. I'm thinking, I want to write that down. It took 1 nanosecond for Spotify to put that right in my hands. You got to love Spotify. You just got to love Spotify. It'll do anything. And the more obscure it is, you want to hear some Oscar Peterson play whatever, it's right there for you. It doesn't matter. You want the third take on the Giant Steps album? It's there. I love this service. But how does it work? I pay them. There's a copyright tribunal involved. They have given a royalty schema to the artists for the performances of their works on Spotify. They get paid according to a formula based on either cue sheets or a survey. Yeah. Now, if you have free Spotify, all that's true, and you have to listen to ads. This is problematic. I don't want to listen to ads, but I don't necessarily want to pay X dollars a month for Spotify. Enter the DAO. What does a DAO do? Well, a DAO has play to earn or listen to earn or be involved to earn. It's a distributed network, so a DAO will live in a peer-to-peer environment. You'll be giving up some of your hard drive. You'll be giving up some of your bandwidth. You can be either a validator node or a client server node, and for that you can earn while you use the service. You can completely change the balance of power because you can be the owner of your data. because it's trustless, I do not need to do anything except put a wallet address as my membership. I don't have to tell you my name. I don't have to tell you where I am. I don't have to tell you anything about me. I can opt to do that. So I could imagine building a DAO, building a service where I'm playing to earn. If I want to be contacted by an advertiser or a sponsor, if I want to be exposed to that content, I can decide on my own if I'm interested in putting some of my data out into a gatherable space, not in a public space, a gatherable space for a qualified advertiser of my choosing, not of the advertiser's choosing, not of the platform's choosing, of my choosing. So we haven't seen this before. We've talked about it a lot. When would I have my own data wallet? When would I be the owner of my data? When would I be the one who is in charge of my data sovereignty, my self-sovereign identity, mine? And how could I be remunerated for it? I have to pay for Spotify now. Is there a world where I could be useful enough to a service by helping to distribute and also contributing my data and being willing to see content that was prepared specifically for someone who is, let's say, my NK nearest neighbor, or someone who's birds of a feather, or someone who fits an algorithmic population for people that are likely to care about this advertiser's stuff. So I put myself with one button press. Not like I don't have to think about it. It's like, yeah, I don't mind seeing fashion. I don't mind seeing car ads. Or I do. But I am totally willing to lend you some of my hard drive, some of my computational power, and some of my bandwidth. Maybe we're investing in artists. Maybe part of what I do is I get this service for free. I'm part of the node, but I've staked some money, either for the proof of stake and or to go into the pool where some of the artists who will become popular, who will do things like sell merchandise, who will ultimately have real physical concerts or concerts in the metaverse. Maybe I'm part of that ecosystem inside this DAO. And so when you build a community first, it's a community of passion, a community of practice, a community of interest first. And then you bring everything else up around it to support it. That is a very different way to think. It's a very different way to think. Some of these are going to be extraordinarily successful, and some of these are going to crash and burn super hard. All the scammers are going to show up. All the charlatans are going to show up. All the bad guys are going to show up. There's no way around it. That's the world we live in. We're always going to be filled with super bad guys. Always. Michael L. Hello, Michael. Thank you. Is asking. Wait. Hold on. He's asking, how will they handle potential copyright infringement claims? So, intellectual property rights and all content rights actually are very clumsily handled right now. Very clumsily handled right now. ASCAP will take a cue sheet. ASCAP will do a survey to see your public performances, and they're going to figure out of the pool of money they collect what you're entitled to. We are on the precipice of a better system. We know that there's DRM that's available, digital watermarking, digital fingerprinting. We know that the files can be encoded that way. It's very hard to strip out digital fingerprinting and digital watermarking, especially the stuff that's just using AI to look for markers in a given piece of audio or a given piece of video where they actually don't have to do anything to the file at all. They simply have to see the file and understand it, or see the song or see the video, and the AI has to create its own pattern to match, and when that pattern matches, it knows what it's looking at. Well, now all mashups of those frames of either audio or video are DRMable or DRM'd, and I can write a smart contract around that fingerprint or watermark that could be significantly more accurate in the real world than what we have now. Especially when you start talking about mashups, because that gets crazy. When you're mashing stuff up, I've been the victim of a lot of mashups. Most of the music that I have on television falls into two categories: television commercials and themes for news, television news, show themes, and television news. So Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-da-da-da-da. You've heard that. Okay, it's a song I wrote a long time ago. It's on a lot of news stations, and I get paid for it on a royalty basis. But plenty of people like to use that for their ringtone, which is great, except I don't get paid. In the song "Let's Go Mets" that I wrote for the world champion 1986 New York Mets, called "Let's Go Mets," some people call it "Let's Go Mets Go." There's a there's a break, and it goes, "Do it, do it, do it, let's go Mets go." It's become like a little weird meme that people use, and you'll hear it in songs all over the place. And I don't get paid for that. Other people do. If you take a piece of a Taylor Swift song, you take Britney Spears' "Toxic" gets mashed up a lot. She's getting paid for that. They're called derivative works, and they will find them, and they'll get paid. But something as obscure as that little break from "Let's Go Mets," which, yes, it was released. Yes, it was a gold record. Yes, it was a triple platinum video. It doesn't matter. It's not something that's sitting in the body of knowledge of ASCAP as a popular song. It was a kind of a novelty song in 1986, and every year when the Mets do something, it gets a little bit of play. So ASCAP doesn't think about it that much. That doesn't mean when I'm on TikTok, or it doesn't mean when I'm on YouTube and looking for something I don't like, or I'm listening to certain kinds of collections of songs, I won't hear that being used without any way to get paid. So this is one tiny little example. I know hundreds of musicians, because that's the business I come out of, hundreds, who have written thousands of songs, and most songs are not a number one hit. Most songs that find an audience, and then they just live out in the ether. They just live in that long tail of Spotify. Those people, myself included, on some of the stuff that I've written that no one knows the name of, but I get paid, but I don't get paid what I should. I don't. And so I'm always looking, and will continue to look, for interesting ways to make that better. I think DAOs can make that better. I'm sure Web3 can make that better. I know NFTs can make that better. There's a lot to be said there. We will be going to CES live. I will be there in person. We will be doing our tours in person. CES 2022 in Las Vegas. It's really happening. It's happening in January. If you are thinking about going to CES, I hope that you will contact us. You know how to find us. We are at ShellyPalmer.com. You can also just check out our blockchain resource page, but it's all ShellyPalmer.com. You're welcome to go there. You're welcome to just send me an email at Shelly@ShellyPalmer.com. Love to have that. Please, just reach out. We're going to be at CES, and I hope that you will join. I'm very excited. I actually am giddy about CES this year. I cannot wait to go. I really missed it. I mean, we did it virtually, and it was wonderful. We're going to do it virtually again, but please, 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 if you're going to CES, let us know. It'd just be great to have you there. It wouldn't be a Crypto Wednesday or a Web3 Wednesday if I didn't just push the book a little bit. And again, the blockchain resource page. There's tons of stuff there about DAOs. There's tons of stuff there about all the things we were covering today. The book's on Amazon. It's in hardcover as well as it's an ebook, and you are completely welcome to order the ebook. The paperback is in second edition. They're both in second edition, and it's actually big enough to have writing on the spine now. I've added a lot in the second edition, so I hope you'll have a chance to get through that. And of course, just lastly, as I just want to bring up, I do this podcast with my good friend Seth Everett. It drops every Tuesday. It's called Tech Stream with Shelly Palmer and Seth Everett, and we just have the most fun talking about pop culture and technology and all that craziness that we like to do. So look, if you have questions that I didn't get a chance to answer today, to find me at Shelly@ShellyPalmer.com. I'm happy to answer your questions. I try to answer every email that you send, and You want to talk blockchain, you want to talk DAOs, you want to talk NFTs, you want to talk smart contracts, whatever it is, or just in general, please reach out. Happy to chat. This is my favorite time every week. I'm going to try to be with you next week. It's possible that I will not be able to because I am going up to Syracuse University to teach my class in person, being the professor of advanced media in residence at Syracuse. I've been teaching on Zoom, which is where I like to teach, but I actually am going to teach a class on campus next week. And if I can figure out a place to do Crypto Wednesday from, I will. Otherwise, I will see you after that. Thank you so very much for being here with me today. And remember, this was not in any way financial advice. So careful if you're going to do any of this. It's dangerous. Find a licensed professional financial advisor and seek their advice. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.